Hello and welcome to another tutorial which shows step by step how to crochet this bottega veneta clutch but in raffia. For this bag I used raffia, a 2.5 mm hook and a metal clasp or a metal frame as shown. I started with a slip knot and started to crochet a long chain base row with about 200 chains. Which is approximately 3 times the length of one side of the clasp. But you can go even longer than this. It will make the bag even more ruffled. I'm showing you a miniature version of the main crocheted panel. Once all the 200 chain stitches were done, I inserted the hook at the first chain of the base row and made a slip stitch. This will connect our panel in a tube, so from now on we work in rounds. I will work with yarn under single crochet, which is like the normal single crochet, but we close the 2 loops on the hook, yarning under the yarn and not over the hook as shown. It's always good to put a marker at the first stitch of the round, cause it will save you a lot of counting and missing stitches in the future, trust me on that. Then continue working a yarn under single crochet on each stitch. Your first round will look like this. Then, to start the second round, take out the marker, insert the hook, pull a loop, then yarn under and pull a loop through both loops on the hook. Put back the marker and continue crocheting all the stitches one by one with the same stitch till the end of the second round. Your work will look like this. Then just keep repeating the same pattern as second round until you have the desired depth for your bag. This is how my side panel looked like, and the sizes of the panel are 80 cm high, 55 cm long on one side, but because it has 2 sides worked in rounds, the whole circumstance is 110 centimeters. The whole circumstance of the metallic clasp is 88 centimeters. Next, I divided one side of the panel in half by placing a marker on the middle of it and 2 markers on the sides. They will help a lot to place in the right place where to gather the panel. So trust me, you need those. I took the metallic clasp, closed it, placed it as shown, and where the clasp ends, I placed a marker. Did the same in the other side. Once I have the markers laid out like this, I know that the space between the 3 inner markers is what I have to snuggle at the long side of the clasp on top of it. The pink marker shows the point where middle of the clasp is and where I am going to do the gathering. The side that is longer than the clasp, in my case showed by the red marker, tells me the quantity of the stitches that I have to gather at the middle for one side. So if my middle section is 37 centimeters, and the top side of the clasp is 28 centimeters long, that means that I have to gather 9 to 10 centimeters at the pink center marker. So I measured 5 centimeters on each side of the center marker, and in those places I placed a marker on both sides of the center marker. Now, if I fold these points at the center marker, I will have the right gathering. With a tapestry needle and some raffia, I gathered the 3 points where the markers are as shown, pulled them tight and made a knot with the end of it. Then I just continued sewing the gathering at the back and not with the front. I sewed well and tight 2 times as shown. Then I hide the yarn and cut it at the back. I hid every other shown raffia at the back and cleaned up by cutting them. Make sure that the length of the panel left in the center after the gathering is the same as the length of the upper side of the clasp. Then repeat the same for the other side of the panel. Once I finished the other side, I placed the open metallic frame or clasp as shown, making sure that the 2 center points where I did the gatherings are in the middle of each side of the frame, and also the circumstance of the frame matches the circumstance of the crocheted panel. In case the circumstance of your crocheted panel is bigger and floppy, sew more stitches where the gatherings are at the center. Like this, the crocheted panel will be smaller. I also tied the important points to the frame, as you can see, so that nothing moves around. Once I've had everything right, I took the frame and covered the metallic frame with the same raffia by crocheting over it as shown. The first stitches over the metallic frame are a bit annoying, but it gets easy once you make more of them. So I continued crocheting single crochet stitches over the metallic frame as shown, making sure to push them tight one with another. I continued till the full one side of the frame was covered, and repeated the same for the other side of the frame. So the full covered frame looked like this. Now to the crocheted panel, we need to crochet the bottom of the bag before we attach it to the frame. So now, to the longer side of the panel, we mark the 2 points where are the sides of the bag. The bottom of my bag will be 8 centimeters. Yours can be more if you want to. So I will place 2 markers on each side of the center marker that are 4 centimeters each far from the center marker. Once I placed these 2 markers, I took out the center marker because I don't need it anymore. I did the same actions at the other side of the bag. Now is easy. I will crochet it with single crochet all the stitches across from one marker to the other marker. I will do this forth and back until I have a rectangle same high as the space between the 2 markers on the 2 sides of the bag. So where I have the marker on the long side of the bag, right side facing up, with the same raffia, I started crocheting single crochet stitches on each stitch. Till I arrived at the other side of the bag. Then one chain, turn my work, skip the chain stitch and continued crocheting one single crochet on the second stitch. Then I continued with one single crochet on each stitch to the end of the row. As you have probably now noticed, the bottom is worked in rows. Once arriving on the other end, continue the same pattern as the second row, forth and back, until the height of the bottom matches the space between the 2 markers on both sides of the bag. Here is a view from the inside of my work and also a view from the outside. As you see, I crocheted enough rows that the height of the bottom matches the space of 8 centimeters between the 2 markers on the side. Then I placed the covered frame on the opening of the bag, but first I turned it from inside out the bag, which means the inside of the bag facing out. I fixed the gathering point by tying them with the frame so things will not move around. Then I started sewing tight all around the frame. With a tapestry needle and same raffia, I made a knot at one end, then tried to entangle it so it will not escape. Then started to sew the covering of the frame with the crocheted panel as shown all around twice. I turn the crocheted panel inside out, right side facing out, and I sewed the bottom all around the opening as shown with a very simple stitch twice. Now, as I sew the small side, I will continue for the rest of the opening. So this is how the sewing looked once I was done. Next, I just pushed the outer side in and made sure the corners were pulled out. And that was it. So, how does it look?